Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Contingency Plan Podcast. My name is Jedi Master Dave, and with me, as always, is Darth Austin.
Hello, everyone.
Well, everybody, back again. Another week. We have survived, and we're back in the High Republic. Back in the High Republic.
In multiple ways. We've got a comic to go through, and then we've got ourselves a new book to review.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how the comics have sort of fallen neatly in place when we've been doing the book reviews, so that we sort of have two different things to talk about.
That's a nice little bite-sized story, though. I look forward to the High Republic comics. I do like the art style quite a bit, so it's been fun.
Yeah, I agree, and we'll talk about that when we actually open that up. But yeah, I do agree. The art style has been pretty cool. So yes, more High Republic, Into the Dark. This was our Claudia Gray book. This was sort of our kind of teenage-ish reader. I actually believe that they were putting this, and let me actually confirm this real quick, but I want to say that they were putting this in like the 8 to 12 range.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, because I know before we started, I believe we were both... Yeah, well, it's okay. So Amazon characterizes it as young adult, so they don't really have an age range. Goodreads said the 8 to 12, so young adult. And I'll tell you one thing, I didn't notice it because I pre-ordered this with a credit. Right now, Amazon's a little wild. Okay, so the book is the hardcover, $13.99. Guess how much the audiobook is without looking at it?
$24.
$33.69.
Oh my God.
$33.69 for the audiobook. And I want to say that this one was what, 11 hours?
Yeah, roughly.
Where is it? Oh, so there was a reading. So Amazon has a reading level from 12 to 18, so a little bit more. Oh, because I didn't click on audiobook. That's why I'm not finding the read time. 11 hours, 11 minutes. So 11:11 on the dot.
That's pretty high priced.
A little bit, yeah. Narrated by Dan Bittner, too.
That's 2 months of an Audible subscription.
Yeah, true. But originally when I started Audible, right, I was buying the expensive books, getting the 2 credits a month, buying the expensive books, and then, maybe I'd buy a couple more because they were cheap. But that's what I reserved credits for, were the super expensive ones. And sure. I'm actually looking through Dan's sort of material here that he's read. Is this his first Star Wars book? This might be his first Star Wars book. He's done quite a bit, but it looks like it might be... Because, obviously, the first thing I think about is Mark Thompson.
Right.
We have other narrators.
We've listened to him in well over 20 books probably at this point.
Yeah. Well, he's so synonymous with everything Star Wars audiobook. And, Bittner did a fine job of reading. Even
he did.
When we had a very... spoilers, mixed spoilers sandwich. Even when we had a very brief cameo from Marchion Ro, he read it the exact same way. So I didn't feel like there was any sort of loss or whatever, drop off. But yeah, I mean, I'm literally just scrolling, and he's got several pages of stuff here, but it doesn't look like he's done any other Star Wars aside from this one. Weird.
Very.
But yeah, so anyway, that was just Amazon there. So yeah, a little bit expensive on the audiobook side, but if you have Audible, you're probably okay. But yeah, we're gonna go through that book. We're gonna go through the comic and roll through, whatever we can get through. Not a ton on the news front. At least not much that we really want to talk about. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's a ton of books that will be coming out. You get your pre-orders in, Thrawn. I don't really want to look this up.
Price
again.
of Freedom. Or is it Price of Freedom? Price of victory.
Let me get official here. I'll pull up Utini because that's usually what I like to use. So let's see. Upcoming releases March 2nd. We have Victory's Price. So that will be, I believe, the final in the Alphabet Squadron series there by Alexander Freed.
Hopefully.
Well, it could turn around. Sometimes middle books have trouble. So we have that. We've got, it looks like on April 6th, they're going to drop a book adaptation of the Dr. Aphra audio drama, which they did with Dooku. I have that one. I don't know if I'm going to buy the Aphra. Aphra was okay. And then we have Thrawn Ascendancy Greater Good, and that drops on April 22nd. Or, excuse me, 27th.
And we have reviewed the first Ascendancy book, correct?
Yes, Chaos Rising.
Okay.
We did indeed do that one. So
We'll
the
have to
sort
get
of
that right away.
Yeah, the prequel, the prequel to the Thrawn sort of series. Very good stuff. And Timothy Zahn, I think, is definitely going to be around for a lot more with Thrawn. Then we have on June 29th, The Rising Storm, Cavan Scott, coming through with more High Republic. And this is when we're hoping we're getting into Stellan Geos. This is the one I've actually been pretty interested in because I want to hear more about Geos personally. And then, kind of rounding out the year. Well, okay, so let me back up just a little bit. We do have one more young adult novel from Justina Ireland, Out of the Shadows. So that will be coming in July 27th. And then the last adult novel, November 2nd, no cover, doesn't even look like a title, but a Mandalorian novel from Adam Christopher, which is something I think a lot of people had been kind of interested in. So we'll see what that looks like, and maybe if that coincides with the release of our next season. But also have a ton of comics and everything, ranging from main Star Wars line, which we talked about last week, Vader, which we're going to talk about sometime next month, Bounty Hunters, Dr. Aphra, the Adventure series, High Republic. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Yeah. There is a lot. So, a lot of good stuff. Oh, and Smuggler's Run. I think I don't know if they were doing more issues of Smuggler's Run. It was kind of like I know that there are 2 out. It's sort of like a little Han, Star Wars Adventure, the kid comic.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're doing more than, I think they are, maybe. Maybe. But anyway, I don't have a lot of time. So I can't just do all this research for you, okay? I just expect you, the listener, to know
to scream at us because you already know.
Oh, goodness. So, yeah, a lot coming up in that realm. Potentially, I don't know. Are we going to see anything else drop? Star Wars, Disney Plus. Obviously, probably not cinematic, but
we'll
maybe
have Book
Disney
of Boba
Plus
this year, correct? We do have that to look forward to.
We'll see.
Potentially.
Yeah, we'll see. Potentially. I mean, it's could be. I don't know. Kenobi. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's been jerked around here and there quite a bit, hasn't it? So,
if I've learned anything the past couple of years being a Star Wars fan, is just to not think about it and be pleasantly surprised when they drop something randomly, because they don't build up a lot of anticipation like they used to.
Well, true, and honestly, I think we're kind of in the same thought pattern there, where obviously we're gonna watch all the stuff that comes out. We're gonna read. We're gonna dive into it, but if it doesn't come out, it's not breaking my heart.
Sure, and I'm not going to spend every day reading theories on when this might come out, what's going to happen here, because that's just maddening.
Well, listen, if you sit around listening to theories every day, you would have already known that Kathleen Kennedy has been fired from Disney, and Jon Favreau has anointed Dave Filoni
savior.
as his apprentice, and we're rebooting the sequel trilogy 10 times over. And
But it's also in a different universe.
yeah. So I mean, living in the world of theories is a difficult path. It's more fun for me to theorize about existing literature or something like that. Like the little tiny things that crop up in books that you kind of like, could this be a reference to this thing or that thing? And then you can.
I feel like it's much more entertaining to reread a book than to read a random theory that has nothing to do with the literature. So I'd agree with you on that. You always catch something new every time you reread or listen to something. So there are so many theories in that alone. Why would you want to search the internet for theories?
Yeah, and I mean, granted, we do, and we have.
We do.
But
it's a guilty pleasure. I won't lie.
Yeah, but I mean,
Star Wars Theory is one of my favorite YouTube channels still, and I'm just saying that we shouldn't do that.
yeah. I mean, that's never really been our podcast. We've been based a little bit more in the literary sense, and a little bit more grounded into existing media, as opposed to. But I mean, we did do a lot of speculation before Rise of Skywalker, and we've saved the universe a few times with our with our fixes and patches and. You get your Cyberpunk patch going. We could probably fix Cyberpunk for all the gamers, man. We probably could have fixed that game. Just give us an episode to talk it out. We would have relaunched that billion-dollar franchise and been Elon Musking it up in space in no time.
Yeah, see, all you guys really need is to create a translation device that takes what we say and put that in computer code and add that to a patch in your game, and we can fix every game out there. I could somehow fix the old PlayStation 2 glitchy games that don't offer updates. We'll figure it out.
Oh, yeah, it's why I was actually watching. So, because the like E3 and a lot of the PAX and all that stuff, the video game conferences weren't able to go out. Steam put out a bunch of indie demos, right?
Yeah.
So demos of indie games. And some of them were interesting, but one of the trends that I found kind of fascinating is that there were a lot of games that were pixelated. They were okay, so here's a good, I think this is a good analogy. I remember you used to play that Sly Cooper game, back in the day. I don't think it was your favorite, but I remember you playing it. And the initial one, how it wasn't very great, but it was an artsy kind of comic book thing. But then when they did I think they did a reboot, or maybe it was just the next gen console that had it, and everything was smoothed out and everything. So a lot of these games that I was seeing are they pixelate things on purpose, but things are very smooth. Yeah. So it's like HD, but there's also pixelation. So trying to boomerify games, so to speak, but while still trying to appeal to the Zoomers, I guess. Although I have to say, I wasn't overly impressed with any of the games that I saw. One Twitch streamer play through. I was like, well, indies need to. What was the what's that imposters game? Among Us.
Among Us.
I mean, Among Us was an indie game, and it just happened to catch on fire. That sort of stuff happens all the time. I think right now, what is the one I've been it's either Valheim. I think is a new one, and that's I don't think it's really even an alpha. It might be alpha, but it's not. I don't think it's finished. But there's some rough around the edges, but clearly semi-polished and everything. Anyway, this isn't a gaming podcast.
It's amazing what people are willing to play before they're actually completed, though.
Yeah.
Go through all the crap. It's like all the people that went through Skyrim when it first came out and it was super buggy. It's like, this wasn't enough for me. I need more pain.
Well, things like H1Z1 or even the early like PUBG stuff, that was all alphas.
Arc was pretty
Rust
too.
Yeah, Arc and Rust and everything. So yeah, for sure. If you want to listen to game stuff, go listen to my buddy's podcast called Box Trick. He'll talk games and stuff. You go over there. Anyway, so we are obviously going to jump into these, but because we're about 15 minutes in, I think it's appropriate to ask how your week was.
Week 2 of the great snowstorm of 21. We've ran out of food. I'm now eating my dog.
Oh, jeez.
It's been rough. I'm still going to work. I'm still able to drive around, but we just don't have any food. No, it's been all right. Not too bad. It's kind of weird recording this early into the week. Don't have the weekend to talk about, really. But, yeah, it's been a pretty boring week. Low overtime at work. Been picking that up. So, listening to the book and reading the comics. Really the highlight of the week.
Yeah,
and getting into Valhalla a little more, keep chugging along with that. Finally watching that after being 10 years late. Vikings. Valhalla's the game. Vikings.
Yeah. No, and yeah, we are recording this on a Thursday. Generally, we record on Saturday, but apparently the Darth has things to do, so can't be bothered.
Darth birthday party.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing now. But yeah, it's still been crappy. It's very cold here in the state of Ohio. Still have some snow falling here and there. I actually, so last night I went to the comic book store to get the Vader issue 10 and to try and fill out your collection because like some of them are hard to find. And I didn't really find anything, sorry. But on my way back, I had to drop a package off to the post office, so I'm going through town. On my way back to my house, over by where that Chinese restaurant that we've eaten at a few times.
Yeah.
Some guy in a little Toyota Tacoma just like goes like he's going to try and gun it out in front of me. Because it's one of those 2 lanes with the middle lane, and he's trying to turn left, and turning left on that street is kind of hard, which is why you don't do it. You turn right, you go to the light, and then you try and turn left at the light. But whatever. I mean, what do I know? I'm just smart. But anyway, he goes to gun it like he's going to try and gun in front of me, which is stupid because there's nobody after me. Yeah. But it's snowed. It was in the process of still snowing, and it was icy. And he just sort of like slips, and he does get it stopped. But like, it's pretty PG show. But I flipped him the bird so hard. Like I have zero patience for that kind of stuff. I really don't. Slow down. There's zero reason to do that kind of crap. There's no reason to be in a hurry.
Yeah, I agree. I had someone, I was on my way home and someone was trying to change lanes and came pretty close to sideswiping me, and I speed up after they get back in their lane. I look at them and he just kind of waves and mouths sorry. It's like, don't be sorry. Just don't be an idiot. Pay attention.
Yeah. So you road raged after him.
No. I didn't really gun it. I just kind of passed him. And I can't gun it. My turbo lag's bad.
Oh, jeez.
It's a tiny car.
Yeah. You just be safe out there. I mean, there's really no reason, to be in a big hurry when it's crappy out. That's what causes the accidents and potentially gets you hurt. And again, it's just not worth it. So this has been your contingency plan PSA for the day. The more you know.
Without patience while driving, you might turn to the dark side and road rage a little bit. I have patience while driving. There's been a few times I've left your house during snowstorms. It's taken me like 3 hours to get home. Yeah. I remember one time the 4-wheel drive of my truck went out halfway home, and I went 5 miles an hour the entire way home because it's back roads.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, no doubt. So anyway, let's go ahead and burn through this comic real quick, and then we'll get into our book. So, again, Star Wars: The High Republic comic, Marvel issue 2 here. And I actually think we can roll through this pretty quickly because honestly,
this one was short.
Yeah, it felt really short, which is what it is. But it does introduce 2 new characters, which were they on the? I don't have the other one. Actually, I do. They weren't on the cover of the first one unless they were on the cover of a variant. But anyway, you saw them in other art, but the sort of like twins. Sarit and Tarek. Sound right?
Sarit and I would say that's how you pronounce it. Sure.
Cool. Well, they're what exactly did she call them? Bond twins, identical Bond twins. Bond, James Bond.
So are they a dyad in the Force? That
actually
to be twins.
You know what? That's an interesting thought. They do feel when the other is emotionally distressed or is in pain.
Yeah, they kind of share the same thoughts in a way.
Yeah, they finish each other's sandwiches.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, Skier is still on the warpath here.
Still got one arm.
Yep, he's not calling
Still
Keeve.
mad about it.
Yeah, he's not calling Keeve by her first name anymore. Well, they find a ship that's been attacked, and their bodies floating out in space.
Nice blue. Everything's blue.
Yeah.
Even the bandoliers and the clothes. Everything blue.
Yeah. These twins are creepy, though, right? I mean, they totally seem like creeps.
Yeah.
Like I don't see how they're nice people. Anyway, there's gas on the ship, and they realize that this is a Nihil attack. They had gassed the crew, basically killed the entire crew. Skier sort of makes them split up. Here, you take a twin, I'll take a twin.
Yeah.
And then they find something kind of...
Split up the Bond twins, because that makes sense. Seems like they'd be more powerful together, but what do I know?
Well, we do find something interesting, but before we find something interesting, we get a couple panels of exactly what happened to Skier, which...
didn't that just make it worse in a way?
Well, see, here,
we talked about this during the book review, and it really bothered us.
Right. So he got a big, giant piece of metal that just chunked his arm, but in these comic panels, we show that his canopy was completely destroyed. He was exposed to the vacuum of space.
Yes, and he has no helmet. He has nothing. Not that even the helmet would save him. So do Transdoshans just not give an F about the vacuum of space now? I mean, what's going on?
Well, if you really read the lore and you understand everything about Trandoshans, you would understand that when they're hurt, they go into a transmorphic state, and then they can survive about anything for an extended period of time.
It doesn't look like he's in a transmorphic state. It just looks like he's pissed off and he's going, ah, 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 ah.
It was kind of weird, but he's having flashbacks. Skier is having flashbacks to a traumatic time.
He's got a little PTSD.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. So we do find something interesting, though. A big old dead hut.
Yeah. You ever seen a hut quite like that before? I'm sure it's out there, but that is my first time seeing a hut just floating on his little pod dead.
Yeah, he's a big old fat hut, too.
Yeah, he was.
Well fed.
And then you got people just hanging from cables and stuff and on fire all around him. It was a cool visual. It was.
Well, it shows the brutality of the Nihil, and I think we joked a lot about them because they're like, they've got their, what did they call it? Their punk music. What was it called? Rock and Electric Daft Punk or something like that. I'm gonna call it Daft Punk. That's what they were listening to. Daft Punk.
I don't think it's Daft Punk.
They're on their ships and they're doing drugs and like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, we're the Nihil. We're super cool. And then
hold on, it's my song. Around the world, around the world.
God. Yeah.
And do that thing exactly the same way again.
Jeez. Oh my goodness. Well, anyway, so Keeve, she does sense that there is somebody alive here. Mm-hmm. However, Skier's having trouble. Like, he's having trouble sensing anything in the Force right now.
Yeah.
And they're attacked. They're attacked by a Nihil. One of our twins here is mildly shot, I guess. It looks worse in the first panel. And then Skier basically, and let me confirm this with you, because by this panel, it looks like he like chops him into pieces.
He does. He chops them in half, and then he just keeps going. And by the way, when you see him, I don't know if you felt the same way, but when you see him above Skier getting ready to pounce on him, for a split second, did you think he was a Drengir? Because I thought he was a Drengir just by looking at his little like weird Venus flytrap face. I know we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves with the books, but
I'll be honest, I didn't think about that.
Okay.
My thought was like a couple of panels before when we have Skier just saying, "Have to do this the old-fashioned way," and he looks like a Godzilla,
like hunt like a wolf.
Yeah. Well, it's just, his eyes are like blank and he's got like a smile on his face. They really did a great job. And this is, in my opinion, this is kind of like the cool part of the animation is Skier as he's just going nuts. And he does. He hacks the Nihil into multiple pieces, and Kiva just like, "Dank Ferric. There was no way to disarm the coward." I mean, we're not making sashimi, Master Skier. Maybe you didn't have to like cut him in so many pieces.
We don't disrespect our enemies. Shut up, Avar. You don't know what I'm going through.
Yeah, and we do get Avar Chris here. They report to Starlight Beacon, and yeah, I mean there's something wrong with Skier, but he does go off on his own again with one of the twins, with the unhurt twin this time. "Well, you're hurt now. I got to take the other one."
I'm not just going to take my former apprentice. I'm going to split up the twins yet again.
Right. So they do find some, which I thought was funny when they called it barley.
Yeah. An ingredient in Bacta, and it's barley.
It's space barley. You can make Bacta out of it. Whatever.
Also calf.
Yeah.
Which
so
is basically Star Wars beer, is what I could gather from what I've read.
Wow. So anyway, Skier and one of our twins go to the planet Typhera, which is growing this Bacta barley.
Mm-hmm. The old BB.
Yeah. And we get, a little bit later, we even get Avar leaving Starlight Beacon, so she's not really necessarily tied down. However, beforehand, Skier loses another twin. He's not very good at helping these twins.
He's really not. He shouldn't have split them up. The twins but the twins are also very easily distracted. I mean, this one's kind of asking for it. He's like, "Oh, something pretty in the distance. I'm going to go in these tall barley plants."
When it's Erodian. Or Erodian's like, "Hey, come here, kid. I got a balloon for you. You want to come into this weird tentacle field and get attacked by..." What do you think this is that attacked our twin?
I don't know. From what we see, I can't really guess. Do you have any theories?
I'm wondering if it's a hut.
I could see that, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Why would the huts have even had this barley? Because it's not like, it didn't seem like it had a lot of it. Okay? I feel like the huts have set up on this planet. Because, and not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but the huts are mentioned in Into the Dark. So I feel like right now the huts are making plays, and Bacta is new. It's not the thing that we know it is today. It's going to replace a medicinal whatever. Maybe it's a goo, maybe it's not.
But it's a time of potential war, and it's the best time to corner the market in this. So it would be a hut thing to do, for sure.
And I'm just thinking maybe it's a little bit leaner hut. You get him with his tail or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we've seen huts squirm around before. It wouldn't be the first time.
Yep.
Just strangle a Jedi, why not? It's not like he would have been able to sense him or anything.
Nah, Strangling Jedi's fun. So we do get Avar and, oh man, I'm just...
Keeve.
Huh?
Oh, Keeve.
No, the apprentice or the Jedi Knight from Test of Courage. That's our secondary character who comes with
Oh, yeah.
comes with Avar Chris.
She was even mentioned in the new book. I should remember
I've
this.
got to find the name, and you guys at home know we're both pretty terrible with names, but I will hopefully Vernestra
Rowe.
Vernestra
right.
Rowe.
Yeah.
That's right. So Vernestra's there. So she's involved. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I liked her. I liked her
do
in
too.
Test of Courage.
Yeah.
So our youngest Jedi Knight
Yeah.
in a long time.
Which
So-
isn't necessarily impressive. We'll get to that later.
No. Anyway, so yeah, we got to talk about that. Anyway,
Yeah.
so yes, the twin is taken. Skier goes out to find him. Lightsaber in the sand. And that's kind of where we end. So Skier's on the rampage. Both twins are having bad days.
Yeah.
Keeve is sort of, I don't know. She's left in limbo, a little uncertain,
Yeah.
possibly.
We don't get a lot of her in this one. And it's kind of unclear how much we're going to follow her compared to Skier in this comic. It's kind of leaning more towards Skier at this point.
I feel like we'll see more of her in the third issue. Now, I'm just from the comic. The tagline for issue 3: Jedi Keeve will never be the same after confronting the horrifying truth on Cedre Minor. If she falls, so too falls the Republic.
Cool cover, too. Very cool cover.
Yes, it is very neat. Issue 4's cover is one we talked about, where possibly Skier's going a little nutty, tying everybody up with his plant hand.
Yeah. I don't know. Keeve is becoming an interesting character to me to an extent. I do like her in general. I feel like if we could get... I would kind of like to see her in a book and get a little more backstory into her. Her and Vernestra is actually two of probably my favorite new characters, I would say.
I would agree with you on that.
The female knights and Padawans are really killing it in this, and I feel like the male ones have been kind of letting me down a little bit.
We'll get into it, but I know what you mean. I mean, obviously, I'm still waiting for Stellan Geos. I think Elzar Man is pretty OP.
I can't wait for more Elzar.
I gotta, he created a storm along with Chris, so they're both pretty OP. But anyway, that was issue 2 of the High Republic comic. Let's go ahead and start diving into the dark, because there are things that we need to talk about that I just don't want to blurt out without kind of going through this book.
Yeah.
Some things that we really need to probably speculate a little bit about. Now, in this particular book, I thought it was going to be very, very heavy on Padawan Roth Silas, who is the Padawan of the unfortunately now deceased Jorah Mali.
Which is something we were really excited about.
Yes. And it wasn't quite his story alone. I think, and I'm going to be honest about this, I think that they tried to put too many characters in this book.
They did.
Yeah. And a couple of them just kind of fell a little flat for me. But I will say this, just in the interim here, this book was so much easier to follow. It was so much better written. And no offense to Light of the Jedi. I like Light of the Jedi, but the repetition in Light of the Jedi really brought it down. We already talked about that. This book was written in a very fluid manner. So I appreciated that, even if we're going to label this a young adult novel.
Yeah, I would too. I think an issue we're kind of running into with High Republic, which we didn't get with the last young adult novel because of just how few characters it introduced.
Yeah.
But, and maybe this isn't their fault. It's a new series. It's a new timeline. We have to introduce quite a few characters all at once. I get that. But it never quite feels like we have a main character in any of these books, except for Vernestra.
Yeah.
Vernestra is the only main character we really get, truthfully.
No, I agree. Yeah, I think that the Justine Ireland did a really good job of highlighting who her main character was. And Reese Silas again, I mean, like he's on the cover along with Affy, and that's great. But then we threw in more characters, and
Too many.
yeah, and we'll talk about them as we go. But essentially, we start off sort of a bit in parallel at times, maybe a little pre-Light of the Jedi, with Reese Silas, who is on Coruscant. Jorah Molly has taken the assignment for Starlight Beacon, and she is trying to bring him out. And he doesn't want to go, but he has a little party with his friends, and they it's
Drinks a little bit.
music going, and drinking some things that Padawans probably shouldn't be drinking. We don't know what it is, but I mean, I'm assuming it's bad. I'm saying, they're going a little wild, going a little wild on Coruscant.
Lots of nice awkward stuff in this book.
Underage drinking. The cops are going to get them. They're going to have to run in the fields. I mean, we came from a small town, so if cops are coming, you run in the field, run in the forest, climb a tree maybe. That never.
I don't think you do that in Coruscant.
Come on. Anyway, so
this guy's kind of a nerd too.
He's a bookish individual. He likes the city life. He likes the. I think he enjoys the splendor of it. But one thing that we get about Reith very, very early on is he's not necessarily as gifted in the Force as some others are. At least that's the way he feels. So
but he's certainly struggled for everything he's earned.
Right. But in that struggle, he has constantly over-prepared, which is what and this is actually, I think, a really good thing to highlight. And I'm sorry if this hurts people's feelings, but not everybody is going to win the race. Not everybody is going to get the gold medal, or nor should they. There has to be some point where you are allowed to achieve based upon your merits. But that doesn't mean you can't. You can, but sometimes you have to put in a little bit of extra effort. And in Reith's case, he's constantly studying. He's over-preparing. He's reading about stuff that he might need to know about. He's retaining it. So he's got a good mind. It's just he's got to work a little bit more on that Force connection, and it's just work.
You could actually argue that his character is kind of similar to Obi-Wan. Because Obi-Wan had to struggle for everything that he earned as well. He had to work harder than most Padawans. He kind of fell behind, and Reese the same way, and he knows this, and he has adapted properly, and I think that he is a good Jedi, personally.
Yeah.
I think
he can be, yeah.
Yeah. He's got a lot of potential.
And that's an interesting, that's a really, really good shout, because Claudia Gray also wrote Master and Apprentice, right?
And so there's a good dichotomy there between the two.
Yeah, and I think maybe she took a little bit of Obi-Wan and placed it in Reith Silas here. Kind of the kid who has to go by the rules. He doesn't want to break the rules, but he needs to practice a little bit. He needs to do this. He needs to do that. Maybe he's a little uncertain and he wants to do things a certain way. And people around him challenge him, because like Jorah Molly constantly is challenging him, just like Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon challenged Obi-Wan. Like you remember that part where Obi-Wan was just doing the basic lightsaber combat drills. And he was like, well, why don't you run me through like a form, or teach me forms, or have me learn forms? He's like, well, I wanted you to get down this to where it's second nature, so that you're not tied to any one form. You can learn anything, you can do anything, because you have the base down so well. And it's kind of, in a way, there are some parallels there, which is kind of cool.
Well, getting a little bit further into the book without trying to spoil it right away, we have a little lightsaber battle where he's even saying, I can't go on the offensive, but I could, go through these stances and defend myself without even thinking about it for a very long period of time.
Right.
So it's second nature to him as well. I mean, he's a very good defensive Jedi. He's definitely good in Form 4, I would say.
No doubt. So we have the party, and he is, kind of getting ready to go to Starlight Beacon. And this is where, where we kind of pick up with one of Jorah Mormolly's former Padawans and now Jedi Knight, Des Rydan. I'm just going to say it here. I think he might be the most useless character I've ever read.
Yeah. So much potential. So much potential. So much buildup.
He gets lost in the sauce too easily for me. Like, I just find myself forgetting about him.
Yeah.
You know,
and the way they wrote in what happens with him through this book is it doesn't help you care about him anymore. It really doesn't.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. And then we get our next Jedi, Orla Gioreni, who has recently declared herself to be a way seeker. And she is kind of like, she's almost kind of in that Ahsoka mold where she's not really out of the Jedi Order, but she's not really in either.
Bit of gray in her, I would say.
Yeah, and we'll talk about her a little bit more because there's some interesting things there. And then finally, we have apparently Jedi. Yeah, apparently Jedi Master, Comac Vitus, and I'll be honest, like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like there were times in this book where they called him a Jedi Knight.
Oh, I think you're right. I would have to go back, but I feel like I don't know. I only noticed the Master status near the end of the book.
Yeah,
when they referred to it, mainly Reef referring to him as one.
Yeah, well, and he's like a scholar.
Yeah,
folklore, stuff like that. So kind of interesting, but let's actually slam through the story, and then we'll do individual profiles on these folks. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Before we jump ahead, though, I did kind of want to get your opinion on this. When we got to this point and we have all these Jedi meeting up, didn't you feel like that was a bit much? Truthfully,
yeah.
I mean, it kind of goes back to the we got too many new characters thing, but like they might not all end up going to the same area in the mid-rim, but it's just odd. Like, you know from the beginning, these characters are going to stick around each other, so it's just a weird step to have 4 Jedi. I mean, 3's usually more than enough.
Yeah, I mean, it did seem a little odd, but they're trying to tell stories. You know, they're trying to tell the story of Orla Gioreni, who's different from Comac, who's got his story. And Des doesn't really have a story, but he becomes a plot device for something later.
He does.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm totally with you, but, like, yes, it did feel a bit overkill.
Yeah.
Felt a bit overkill. Like, I feel like you could have either written Comac or Orla. One of the two. I think you could have just stopped at them.
You could have thrown one of those characters to another writer and let them add him in. Truthfully.
Or you could have had both Orla and Comac and sliced Des, and then just given that the role of Des that kind of comes up later to one of the other.
Yeah.
But still tell their combined story. Because the thing is Orla and Comac are very close. Yes. You know, they kind of came up a little bit together. So
I almost think it would have been cool. And again, this is all speculation, kind of getting off topic, but I imagine you probably feel the same way. If they had not had Des and it would have been these two, I think it would have been kind of cool to diverge near the end of the story where Reef has a decision to make between these two. Which master would he want?
Sure.
I think that would have been kind of cool because they're different enough in the Force that it would have been a big decision for Reef. Like, okay, well, what path do I really want to take?
Sure. So let's go ahead and bounce on here because we then meet a ship called the Vessel.
The Vessel.
That's the name, which is a part of the Bind Guild, which is, you know, shipping, receiving, possibly smuggling, who knows. And this is captained by Leox Giossi? I don't remember how it was pronounced.
It was pronounced Giossi, I think.
Okay, there we go.
Jossi. It was Jossi.
Well, let me tell you a little about Leox, man.
He wears some beads and open neck shirts. He's got a rock for a buddy, and he totally does not have sex. Okay?
And he does not have an addiction to death sticks, man. He does not have an addiction. It is medicinal, man.
Oh man, Leox is the Jack Sparrow hippie of this book. He's comical at times. I really feared for his life throughout this book.
Yeah.
But
I gotta say though, I liked him.
I do too.
Really, he was very entertaining, and he was who he was. You knew who he was, and he stuck true to it. I liked it throughout the whole book.
He's just a different guy, flying by his own rules. He doesn't necessarily have a master. He's just here, man. His co-pilot is Affie Hollow, and then we have
Geode. Dude. I mean, Geode.
Oh my God, Geodude. Oh yes, the joke that actually wasn't. I apologize, Claudia. I mean, I love you to death. You write great books, but the joke that really wasn't a joke, like it really wasn't a great joke.
The joke is he's a living being.
I mean, he's a rock, but he's also
and we
a
all thought he
sentient
wasn't.
being.
Yeah.
His stare comforted me somehow.
And he's a partier, man. He likes going to the clubs.
He
He
likes going to the club.
He's probably the opposite of Jossie, He likes getting the ladies, man.
Oh my God, he'll just never slow
Geode,
down,
the
man.
Rock Johnson.
Geode the Rock Johnson. Oh my God. Oh yes, Geode never talks. He is their
But he
navigator.
gives you a lot of knowing looks, though. A lot of knowing looks.
A nice rock shoulder to put your head on, and I don't know. He's weird. So anyway, he's a rock, a large rock, by the way, that moves and apparently can talk in parties and doesn't
he have
slow
a
down
seat?
for anybody.
Do they give him a co-pilot seat? Or does he
I
just
think
kind
he
of
has
sit
a
on
seat.
the floor?
That's a good question. I really don't know.
Does he hop? Do rocks hop?
I feel like he's like a transformer. Like when people aren't looking, he sprouts arms and legs and just.
What was that noise? It sounded like transforming. I don't know, man. I hear that every once in a while, but I look around and never find anything.
Yeah. It just sounds like a lot of rocks grinding together. I don't know what Geode's in there doing.
I don't really want to know either.
Yeah. So the vessel is their conveyance out to Starlight Beacon. However, this also coincides with our disaster of the Legacy Run. Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, they are like right there.
Yeah.
They see it.
Yeah.
And Leox actually thinks at first that it was a Legacy Run.
Yeah, he's able to actually tell which ship it was. In hyperspace, by the way. Okay.
Well, I think it was a piece that they saw anyway, which still doesn't make sense because apparently they were supposed to all be traveling at light speed, the pieces.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So how did they sync up with that?
That was a little bit confusing, but okay, sure.
Again, Star Wars, don't try to expound on hyperspace. You're going to write yourself into a corner. It's going to get bad.
Yeah. So they are effectively grounded, and Affie, who's, I guess, foster mother, adoptive mother, Scoverbine, who's the leader of the Bind Guild, she thinks she might have been on that ship because the Legacy Run was effectively the Guild's main ship.
Flagship. Yeah, it was the
flagship.
Best ship in the... Yeah.
Despite the fact that it was old as crap.
Well maintained, though, by the captain.
Yes. So eventually they find Geode plots a course when they are able to travel, and it takes them to some random spot of space, and they find a space station. Mm-hmm. Space station of death.
Basically.
What a terrible place.
Yeah.
There are some other characters here. We get Non, who, I mean, not to spill the beans, but we're already spilling the beans, winds up being a Nihil. Yes. And her and Reith sort of are friendly, I guess. Reith actually saves her from being kidnapped at one point by one of the more, unscrupulous characters that was also on the station. And they both share things with each other where Reith tells her more about the Jedi, and she doesn't really tell him anything directly, but, her parents are dead. She's under the care of, was it Haig, I think, or Hogue, or Haig, or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
He was an older Nihil that was very clever, I guess. And, none the wiser. Didn't know that they were Nihil. I mean, I guess aside from the big event with Dez, is there anything else much to talk about? I mean, the infighting happened. They all kind of were trying to scrap this. Everybody was like trying to get a piece of the station.
Yeah.
So that happened. But unfortunately, while exploring the station, Dez is conceivably killed. Potentially vaporized by these energy rings. And by the way, I was actually searching for the name because I didn't remember it right off the top of my head, but this station was built by an ancient civilization called the Amaxines. And as we get a little bit further on, they were kind of a conquering species, I guess, but were always very well informed, and nobody really understood how they did it. How they were able to expand the way they did. We'll learn how eventually.
Yeah.
But, Dez is conceivably killed, vaporized, and this affects everybody pretty hard, at least the Jedi it does. However, Non and Reith aren't necessarily wholly convinced, so they do a little searching and realize that the rings, which were used to power ships, basically just let out an airlock. So it was like a ship launch. So he's dead. Deader in a doornail. All right. Now, we do get a little bit about the plant life on the ship. There's giant like forest type of deal. There are bots, 8T, which I could have sworn that in the book he was just saying A, like the letter A-T, but it's apparently 8, the number 8.
Oh, it is?
That's
Really?
what it says. 8.
Yeah, it didn't sound like 8.
No, yeah, because he wasn't enunciating it. I could have. It sounded like he was saying AT, but he was just saying it fast, I guess. And nobody was able to touch the plants. The droids were very territorial about their plants, which was funny. And I guess the only other thing that's kind of notable during this time is we are getting flashbacks from Comac and Orla's past 25 years ago. And I also want to put this out there. I visualized Orla young. And I visualized Comac older.
Yeah. Yeah, even though they're about the same age.
And I don't know if it was the voices or if it was just, sometimes you just get a...
Well, Comac doesn't have a voice that, at least in this, again, this is an audible thing. A lot of you guys aren't going to get this. You might have your own interpretation in your mind while reading the book of what they sound like, but Comac has a very authoritative voice in this audiobook, and he sounds older, at least in his 40s, 50s, I would say. So it was very hard to imagine him anything but old, and it was the exact opposite with Orla.
Well, I wouldn't say like old, but I kind of viewed him, in his 40s. That's kind of the way. That's kind of the way I visualized him.
But again, if he's a master, shouldn't he be? Really?
Yeah. And folks at home, the reason we talk so much about the audiobook is like obviously me and the Darth still read as much as we can, but like in order to get through a lot of stuff, we do use Audible as a crutch. I can listen to it while I'm working. He can listen to it while he's working, driving, all that sort of stuff. It does help get through stories a lot faster. But again,
otherwise
pretty much
we'd be 2-3 weeks out on some of these, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. But there's still a lot of great stuff in the audiobooks, which is why I continue to do it. But yeah, I mean, even with that, I kind of visualize like Comac as sort of like a bigger guy, like maybe a little bit more muscular, broad-shouldered, tall. I feel like he's tall. Yeah. Orla, I kind of feel like she's, I have this picture of like this, sort of slender but powerful, sort of like the gymnast body, but taller. You know what I mean?
Almost a bit like Asajj, truthfully, is how I envisioned her.
Yeah, that's a good, and not because the picture that they have up on like Wikipedia is like she is like bone white.
Yeah, no.
I didn't even catch that when we were going through the book, and then I saw this picture. I was like, oh, she's bone white, man. And it did definitely. My first thought was that looks exactly like Asajj. Yeah. So that's kind of that is a good shout. But even with Asajj, I mean, her age was so ambiguous as it was.
Yeah.
But so anyway, 25 years before Orla, Comac, Master Simics, who was Comac's master, and Master Larret, who was Orla's master, were on a mission to save some dignitaries who had been kidnapped by a Lasat, of all people, and who was working for the Hutts. And during the course of this, unfortunately, Master Simics was killed very early. And
by his harness.
Not
fitting properly.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, there's a little bit more, but yes, essentially that's a big part of it. But Comac blames himself because he didn't properly research the legends. And this to me felt a lot like Thrawn. Like he even talks about reading the artwork or looking at the artwork, reading the lore. And the lore of this planet said that there were a bunch of snakes, like giant snakes. And unfortunately, he didn't take that seriously, which was part of the reason why Master Simics was killed. And they just had to leave him there. They had to leave him there and hope that the Marauders just thought that he was the only Jedi that was there, and then they could go about their business and rescue the hostages. And I'm going to finish this story, by the way. I'm not jumping back and forth. We'll finish this flashback because it does flashback a few times. But essentially, they make their way through the caves. They kill a bunch of the snakes. And then when they finally get to rescue the dignitaries, which were from two different planets, right?
Yes.
Or were they continents?
Yeah, it's
planets?
No, it's different planets. A king from one planet and a queen from another.
Okay, good call. Because like I thought it was planets, but it's like, well, I hope it's planets.
It was two feuding planets actually.
Let's see. What were their names? You don't happen to have that up, do you? Because
question.
Gosh, I hate diving through names, man. Oh, I wish I could remember names better. I really do. It's always been a...
Was Rasasan one of them?
I'm not sure.
I believe Rasasu was the one that ends up sacrificing himself.
Well, there was so Thandeka was one of the queens of Aram.
Yes.
And Monarch Castle.
Oh, was it Castle? Okay.
Yes, of Aranu, who was from the other side, and they had disagreements for a very long time, but they were actually working out a lot of that in this cave, being in close proximity, being kidnapped. So when Larret, Comac, and Orla go into the cave, this is actually more of an Orla story than anything else, because Orla's first instinct was to go for the Lasat. But her Jedi training told her something else. And this led to the death of Castle, who died to protect the queen in a very selfless manner, which, I mean, I
Brought
think
the
either
two worlds together, essentially.
well, I think either way they probably would have, but this is like, it's like, I have to promise this now. It has to be done because he gave his life,
Yeah.
which is a pretty common trope, honestly. So this has been a really a sore spot for both Comac and Orla. You know, Orla, this has shaken her foundation in belief of the Jedi, and she had already been a questioner. Even her master Laird was kind of critical of that at times. But with Comac, he lives with the guilt. For him, it's guilt of losing his master when he thinks he should have been able to do something else. So let's move on to the main story because we got to get to the darkness, which is crazy.
Yeah. Pretty cool in a way, honestly, even though the way it culminates is kind of disappointing in a way. It was pretty cool build up.
It kind of is. So essentially, Comac and Orla do find a room that is, I mean, they sense that there's dark side here. They sense that there's something wrong on this station. And they both fall into visions. Even Reeth has a vision of being attacked by a Jedi, which actually winds up
happening,
being true. And this isn't just like a vision. This is an encapsulation. Like they are trapped into this warning. And it's something that they all misinterpret.
Yeah. What was Comac's? That's the only one I don't really remember.
Yeah, I knew you were going to flip and ask that. I don't like you anymore.
Honestly, I don't know if they really dived into Comac's all that much. They might.
No, I remember it being through the lens of Orla, and then she finds Comac, and Comac was highly affected by it, like really shaken to the core. He had to be helped out. But essentially, to make complicated matters somewhat less complicated, they wind up taking a couple idols. And essentially, we do get a kind of a cool thing where Comac, Orla, and Reeth cast a sort of a force shield around the items to contain the darkness, and they take them with them and bring them back to Coruscant. Let's see. What else do we want to talk about on the station?
Well, we do have the little backstory with Affy that we should probably bring up.
Oh, good. Yeah, good call. This is why I don't do podcasting alone. So, yes, Affy's backstory. She finds writing on walls. Nobody writes anymore, so if they do,
Most
know it's probably pretty important, you know?
We're so technologically advanced, we don't know how to write.
Yeah. I don't know even how to read. I just have my robots tell it to me in story form. It's a lot of fun. I go to sleep to it at night. So she finds some writings from other Bind Guild members and a symbol from her parents' ship. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of this leads to the unfortunate realization that her parents were killed using the Helix rings in an attempt to make a dangerous run for the Bind Guild. And this is how she learns about the indentured servitude of her parents and other members of the guild, trying to pay back debts and taking big risks where the leader of the Bind Guild would at times give big bonuses if you did this. There is a bit of a morality play here, and I think as we get a little bit further, I do want to discuss that a little bit more. But let's go ahead and continue to move a little bit, just so we're not getting stuck in any one area for very long. Let's see here. So I guess at this point we can go ahead and just head back to Coruscant. Mm-hmm. We cool with that?
Yeah.
Okay. You better be okay with that.
I don't have choices.
Okay, so the return to Coruscant. There's a lot going on here. the Wreath eventually does learn of the death of his master, which
in the worst way possible by a droid.
Yeah, I mean he's asking if anyone by her name was sent to whatever medical facility it was, and he's like no, because she was like killed in action. Need anything else? Hot towel, maybe some cocoa.
By the way, Skier saw it. Oh no, Skier saw it. It must be true. No.
Yeah, exactly. This leads into a lot for him, and it leads into this arch, the Kyber arch.
Yeah.
Which I'll be honest with you, I don't think was actually explained very well here.
It wasn't. I don't even know how to visualize the Kyber arch, to be honest.
Well, in the very beginning, Master Molly says, why can no one cross the Kyber arch alone? And the thing is physically you can. Mm-hmm. And Wreath does. He does cross the arch alone. So what do you think? What do you think about this? What do you think the lesson is here?
I think the overarching lesson to this is, for a Jedi, you cannot really go where you want to go without, and the way that they interpret it is stepping over those that have come before, because ultimately the entire Jedi Order has this cumulative knowledge that they've learned throughout the generations, and they all kind of expound on that. They can't really do a whole lot on their own, and they can't do much without relying on the Force, and I think this arch kind of represents that.
So a little bit of backstory about the arch. The arch was constructed from kyber crystals retrieved from the lightsabers of Jedi who had fallen in battle. Mm-hmm. It was thick at the base, but extremely narrow at the top, to symbolize the perils the fallen Jedi had faced. Mm-hmm. And they call this an advanced meditation technique to cross the arch. Only attempted by those Jedi who felt called to by the Force. So I kind of wonder if it's something, if it's almost like a coping mechanism. You know, Jedi who experience loss and, you know, perhaps can't necessarily deal with that in the right way, and this helps them gain perspective. And by not walking it alone, what they're doing is they're walking with their memories of their fallen comrades or masters or whatever, so that they can find perspective on it.
Yeah, which is actually really sad when you think about that, because he can't even do that with his own master, because her crystal wouldn't be there.
True. So I don't know. I do think that lesson felt a little bit lost in the book.
It did.
Like, I wish they would have fleshed that out. Yeah. Because it is cool. I mean, it's interesting to think about, but I just don't think it was well fleshed out. He also destroys a droid.
Yeah.
Training droid. That's fun.
Almost cuts his head off.
Yeah. It's fine.
It can repair itself.
Well, we start to go in a lot of different directions here, because everybody effectively wants to go back to the Amaxine station. For Wreath, he wants to make the Nihil pay. Mm-hmm. He might say he wants to arrest him, bring him justice. He wants to make him pay. Mm-hmm. Answer for their crimes. And in a lot of ways, for Orla and Comac, they want to stop the darkness that they've unleashed. Because I'm getting a little bit ahead, but we'll get back to the why. And for then Affy, she wants to go back to get proof to effectively blackmail her adoptive mother, the leader of the Bind Guild. What was the dessert that they had? Was it Baja?
The ice dessert.
Wasn't it Baja? Baja. It just reminds me of a line from a James Bond movie. No, it was what was that Bond movie? They had that Texan who like that Texan CEO that was like kidnapped by I'm pretty sure that one was a Sean Connery role. Anyway, I just remember. Oh, it was Diamonds Are Forever. And I just remember it's really weird. I visualized it really, really vividly when the chapter was read. If it is Baja, but anyway, the whole thing is like when they found the CEO. It's like, do you have a facility in Baja? It's like Baja, and that like really over exaggerated Texan thing. So anyway, yeah, they're off eating ice. It's really super cool, but she's got to get proof to force her mom to stop doing bad, morally ambiguous things. So they all have a mission, but let's get back to the idols because that's where the darkness is, right? The darkness inside.
Sure.
We got to get our keyblades and bring Mickey in here so we can bash him and take out the heartless. What isn't that what that stupid series?
You probably just made so many nerds mad.
I don't care.
But that's okay.
Kingdom Hearts, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I remember the first game like way back when, but now it's like a bunch of puffy pants and zippers everywhere. I can't take that stuff seriously.
Yeah.
The heartless and the darkness inside of me.
We're not supposed to as a child's game. It's like saying I should take Sly Cooper seriously now.
Well, hey man, you're never too old for a little Ratchet and Clank, a little Spyro the Dragon.
Well, of course. I mean, those are timeless, little Crash and whatnot.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get back to these idols because this is actually kind of interesting. We've got like the Jedi of all Jedi in here. Like we're getting ready to battle it out, man. We're going in guns, force blazing, not guns, force blazing.
No blasters here. Although a couple of them keep saying throughout this book, I should really carry a blaster.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, they're in here just like force blazing. They're getting ready. They're amping themselves up. They're chest bumping and like injecting some steroids in there to get a little extra force for this one, brother. I'm gonna come off the top rope with a elbow drop, and I'm gonna pin you 1, 2, 3, and there will be no more dark side. Anyway, the hilarious thing is there was no darkness in these idols at all.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
And I guess the force bubble they put around him kept him from realizing that. And of course, they left the station a little bit too quickly to realize what they unleashed.
Yeah, that was the worst thing because like even they talk about it a little bit where they felt that even putting up that barrier was a little harder than it needed to be. Mm-hmm. And it was hard because it was already doing that. Like it was already attempting to contain darkness. Yeah. It wasn't darkness at all. These idols were there to contain darkness. And I got to say, the only thing that I got a little bit skeptical about was when we started talking about, what was it, like Arcania? Like we're talking about like arcane magic, and we're going to go up to the Mange Guild next and learn how to lightning bolt, fire, water. I was like, get out of here, man.
Yeah.
Pocket sand.
Not sand.
So anyway, Comac wants to bring the idols back. He wants to make sure that the darkness is fought. And the council is like, listen, this is the same crap we always have with the council. Like they just don't understand anything. They're stupid.
Because they're not doing the work.
Oh, we can't.
Listening to reports.
Yeah, we can't possibly sacrifice a master and another and a Jedi Knight and a Padawan to contain great darkness. I mean, we couldn't possibly do that. We've got to deal with a ship. It's like, shut your mouth. Mm-hmm. If you had idols was it 3, I think, that were containing such a dark or 4? Okay, sorry. That were containing a darkness so powerful that even the warnings were knocking out Jedi. And this place we know is being used by the Bind Guild. We know that the Nihil now know about it. What are they doing? Like, what are they doing?
The council will always be the council.
God,
That's
so
how,
stupid.
It's how it's written. I mean, it's just a common knowledge thing to writers of Star Wars. Listen, the council has to be a barrier. They always have to be something to climb over. The council can never help in Star Wars, ever.
Yeah, and this is actually one thing I wanted to talk about. I feel like, despite this supposed to be the High Republic, the greatest part of the Jedi, I actually think it's not. I don't think it's greater at all. I just think it's more Art Deco, man. I just think that they're making crazy things, but they're not any better. I think that there are Jedi that have insane Force abilities because they have the sort of the time in peace to kind of deal with it. But as soon as a problem comes up, they revert to the exact Clone Wars era Jedi that we have seen time and time again be deceived and not deal with problems over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's so many different things. I mean, even Reef mentioning, we're really not trained to do any combat with other lightsaber users. Like, well, why wouldn't you? Your biggest enemy of the past, you just completely ignore the fact that they could come back. Every generation. You know?
Well, I
understand they're not your main focus at this point, but why wouldn't you put more effort into that?
Well, I think the only thing in relation to just Sith, I think that they've gone such a long time from the defeat of the Sith as a species. So to honestly think about like just normal Force users being Sith, I think that honestly at this point they just think that the Sith have been destroyed and that a Sith was an actual Sith, the species.
But
I don't think they think about Dark Jedi.
But the problem with that is they're constantly throwing out that their own members of the council, their own members of the order could fall to the dark side all the time.
Yeah,
and
but that's a different combatant though. I mean that's a mind thing.
True, but it would still be a combatant like you. You know, you'd have to engage in lightsaber combat. You would have to prepare yourself for that. And they're paranoid about this, but they don't really prepare for that. And they don't deal with working through these issues with Jedi. I mean, look at Orla. Look at Comac. They're going through so much, and the Order doesn't realize it. They could easily allow them to fall to the dark side or to completely lose them from the Order, and they don't care.
Well, see, the only caveat I'd put to that is that I think that although Comac is having a lot of trouble with his anger, I actually think that he has a lot better tools to compartmentalize and deal with it. Orla, I actually don't think would be in any risk of turning to the dark side. She just sort of has to understand her own Force compass, so to speak. But to your point,
Lost
this is
to the Order. Let's put it that way. At least with
well,
Orla,
but
you could easily lose her to the Order.
Yeah, but who cares? I mean, that sort of stuff just it is what it is. It's not really the same, but I get it. But more to your point, this honestly was the same thing that pervaded into like the prequel era as well. They even in like the Dooku novel, they talked about this this lightsaber combat just being ceremonial. Because there was no threat, and even with that, think about it. I mean, there are only ever 2 Sith, and there are thousands of Jedi. So the worry from the Old Republic was that there were a lot of Sith. There weren't just 2. I mean, the rule of 2 wasn't a thing until later. There were multiple Sith. There was an army of Sith. This was something that had to be dealt with on a grander scale, but now that threat was eliminated. So they think. But I mean, even somebody turning to the dark side, I feel like they think that they can deal with that in a more tactful way than thinking about saber combat. But I understand your point. I mean, that's a preparedness thing. That's like you should be prepared for anything, but again, they're in a peacetime and it is what it is.
The further we get into this, though, something they can't address either. It's like the more we build into this story, the more it's like, well, the prequel era Jedi should have probably learned from these people's mistakes. Because that's just a generation or two away. They should have known. And again, we might not run into Sith. We might not run into anything like that in High Republic. We probably aren't going to because of it would break the continuity of the prequels because they say we haven't seen a Sith for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
But they're still making the same mistakes. You know, it's frustrating.
Well, okay, but here's the thing. It only winds up being a mistake because of Palpatine.
I'm saying the Order being kind of blind to...
No, but see, that's the point, though. I understand that, but they can afford to be blind because they haven't seen a Sith in over 1,000 years, and the only reason they had a problem is because of Palpatine.
Yeah.
Because Palpatine was who he was. So if there were no Darth Sidious, if there were no Palpatine, they could have continued another 1,000 years in ignorance. And then what would, okay. But I agree, they should have changed and learned, but they wouldn't have seen the High Republic as a mistake because it worked.
Right.
Well, anyway, let's continue on with the back half of the story here. It's basically a mad dash to get back to the station. Reith is going for his reasons. Comac and Orla steal the idols to bring back to the station. And Affy and the crew of the vessel are ready to charter him away. So they get out there, and it's kind of funny them talking about, like, well, the council forbid it. It's like, well, but they didn't really.
Really. We just know they would.
I mean, shut up, Padawan. I'm a master, okay?
I just called you a nut. Shut up.
Shut your mouth, Padawan.
I just got promoted in the field like 10 minutes ago. You shut your mouth.
This is an acting field command of a master. You better... don't make me. Oh, man. So anyway, we do get to the station. There is a Nihil ship there. Fancy flying, kind of doing a little orbit so that the Nihil don't find them.
We don't see them, and they don't see us.
Yeah, sensors aren't a thing. It's fine. So they again kind of do a bit of a split, sort of. Affy goes off to try and find more wall hieroglyphics. And the Jedi are going to help deal with the... If I'm remembering this correct, they are all going to deal with the darkness. However, I believe this is the point where Reef... Okay, yeah. So Reef somehow accidentally engages the rings, our sort of drive system here. He's thrown in a pod. Like, this whole sequence of events was very confusing.
A light speed pod.
Yeah. Yeah. So we figure out that, at this point, well, okay, at any point in this book, did you actually believe Des was dead?
No. That's the way they talked about it.
Okay,
He knew
just making
right
sure.
away,
Okay, just making sure. I didn't think so either. So Reith is transported to a planet, which is the home world of the Drengir. And the Drengir are a carnivorous tree people. They're like Ents, but
With
they want to eat you.
Venus flytrap mouth.
Yeah, and unfortunately, our Jedi on the station also figure out that, there's Drengir here. They've been here all along in the forest.
Yeah.
They are the forest.
Hey guys, we've been here all this time. We've been watching you. We said hi. You ignored us.
I mean, thanks for taking those idols away. It was kind of trapping us here, but guess what? We're kind of hungry. We're gonna eat your bones. Oh man. So, give me your impression on the Drengir. What did you think about our carnivorous tree people?
They're kind of dumb. kind of really dumb. I don't know. I mean, the only thing that makes them a threat to me is the fact that they can regenerate
quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. Otherwise, they'd be a minor threat at most. Truthfully.
Yeah, I mean they are kind of scary, I guess, in the fact that you can't just kill them, but I assume that you could kill them.
Well, you can by the powers of vacuum. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Well, yeah, true. But, they talk too much. I think that the Drengir talk too much. I think they would have been more scary if they just shut up. Well, I'll also...
Look at Yuz and Vogue. The first couple books in Jedi Order. You barely got anything from them. These people tell you their entire backstory. You know exactly why they're there in the first meeting with them.
Yeah, I mean, even when they do talk, I mean, they're pretty busy killing people or turning them into coral monsters. Mm-hmm. For me, okay, so Dez is alive. He's been kind of like whacked out by their wacky sap, man. He's tripping.
Yeah, drugged and kind of tempted by the dark side, essentially, because these creatures are based heavily in the dark side. It emanates off of them.
I mean, essentially, yeah. And they direct Dez to attack Reeth, and this is his vision. This was Reeth's vision coming to fruition. But my thing is if it were me, it's probably too dark for a younger adult's book. But if it were me, I would have had them lead Dez out and had one of the Drengir just eat him in front of Reeth.
Yeah.
That would have made this more of a threat. Like I never exactly felt... I feel more threatened by the Nihil than I do of carnivorous tree people.
Yeah.
They just kind of seem like...
And what were their numbers, really? I mean, do we interact with 8 of them, maybe?
Right. Yeah, that's an interest. I never understood their numbers either. And then the whole thing where I guess the Drengir weren't able to make the hyperspace pods go back to the station, but somehow by Reeth activating one, they were also able to activate more.
Yeah.
So Reeth and
we do find out that these Drengir essentially dominated and destroyed this ancient civilization that created these pods.
Yeah, good call. So, I mean, they're dangerous. I get it. But it's like, okay, so Dez and Reeth are able to get into a pod and blast off back to the station, but they're in hot pursuit by balls full of Drengir. Mm-hmm. And then back at the station, everybody else is dealing with the Drengir. Well, I will also say that Comac just sometimes. Anyway, they are able to put the barrier back up, but then they have to take it back down to deal with the Nihil with the Drengir. But you can't just defeat it. But they wanted the Drengir to take out the Nihil so that they didn't get caught by the Nihil and they have to find them out.
And then at the end, Reef is like, you know what? This is stupid. Eject.
Yeah. It's actually kind of like the scene from Force Awakens when when Rey accidentally lets out those creatures that Han had on his transport ship, and they kill everybody, and almost eat Finn. I haven't watched that movie in a while. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that here pretty soon. So anyway, what else? What else do we want to talk about with the station? I mean,
well, there's the stuff with what's her name? The Nihil girl. Non.
Yeah, Non does give sort of give Reeth a free pass, one free pass. It's like, you saved my life, so I won't kill you, which is actually pretty laughable, to be honest with you. Even a Padawan, I mean, no offense, but And I think she knows that. Some of the dialogue is like, I know I can't take you in 1-to-1, but I will kill you from a ship. It's like, listen, just kiss and get it over with.
Yeah.
I mean, just no,
Yeah.
I'm celibate. I am like a monk or something. Oh, blah, blah. Get out of here.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder what the importance to Nan's character is, because we kind of get a little bit more of her at the end. It's like, why is she important enough to talk to the whatever?
The eye. Yeah, I mean, I think she'll pop up. I mean, the whole thing is like, I think there's an opening for someone strategic, someone who has a bit more of an eye for battling a real enemy. Because, like, the thing is, you know, Marchion is strategic, but like Lorna D and who is the other?
Lorna D's the only one I can remember, truthfully. The other two are so forgettable.
Well, one of them's dead.
Right.
So,
which maybe she's going to replace him. I don't know.
That's what I'm kind of wondering. Maybe she takes over a cloud or a tempest or what? No, what are they called? They're the tempest runners to the cloud. I don't get it. It's a lot of clouds and weather patterns.
Storms.
I'm a Texas tornado. What's Texas? It was a galaxy long ago, far. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I feel like there's a place. I feel like there's a place for her because she's very bloody minded. I mean, she wants to, but I feel like she would also be an easy turn. You know, like, oh no, your parents weren't killed by any of this. They were killed by Lorna D or something. I don't know.
Marchion Row.
You did very well. Sorry, it's really hard for me to talk sometimes. So angsty.
I'm always taking a poo. It's hard to speak.
I've been dealing with hemorrhoids for most of my life.
I have 3 at any given time. Try and figure it out.
There's no such thing as preparation H in this galaxy. I've been waiting for Bacta for a long time. Anyway, enough Marchion Road jokes. So, so we get our station resolution. Nan's off doing Nan things, meeting with Marchion. And we kind of get this sort of like almost happy ending wrap up session here. Where previously the council had, and a master on the council had come to Wreath. And again, I was telling you this before. I felt like he was going to be promoted to flipping Jedi Knight. Do you want to have this conversation now?
Yes.
Okay, let's have this conversation. They promote people too fast. I mean,
what are the credentials to become a Jedi?
Yeah, I mean, Vernestra seems to be pretty good, but even in her book, she had a lot of trouble dealing with that situation. But she eventually did. But the struggle was such a part of that story. But she's a Jedi Knight.
That story should have promoted her to Jedi Knight.
Yes.
Truthfully.
Yes. I agree. I do agree with that. But she's great character. But then we go into Comac. How is he a master? He is clearly not ready to be considered a master.
Yeah. And the only thing that I actually like about Comac, truthfully, is he constantly brings up this thing about emotion and how the Jedi are supposed to suppress it, and it's not fair to be expected to be this guardian of the people, but not allowed to actually have feelings for the people.
Yeah.
And it brings up this other thing. It's like, well, how important are we really to the council if our deaths are supposed to be suppressed and ignored and not acknowledged?
Well, that's the unwritten rules of baseball, though. You know, you have this Kyber arch, right? That's all the fallen. So, and it's very clear in that they care about their comrades deeply. But again, so they're a bunch of hypocrites, is what it is.
Yeah.
You do this, but wink. Wink, wink. Don't care about your don't form attachment to your colleagues. Wink, wink, nod,
But
nod.
love everybody.
Yeah, I mean, Elzar and Avar don't kiss. Wink, wink. I'm just saying, it's like there's obviously more to it, but they're so, I don't know. Again, I can only equate it to the unwritten rules of baseball. It's like, somebody flips a bat, somebody's probably going to get beamed in the late innings of that game. It's just understood that it's going to happen because, disrespect a pitcher, another pitcher is going to bean you. And, they give you a nice little tap on your thigh. You take first base. It is what it is. Don't hit a grand slam when you're up 15 runs, on an 0-3 count or a 3-0 count. You know what I mean? I'm sure nobody understands baseball anymore. When you have 3 balls and just take the strike, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. That whole thing's just tough, but I am worried about the rate at which some of these folks are promoted up because it feels like a lot of the times they're just not ready. They're just not ready yet.
They're just worried about the number of Jedi they have, not the quality. Which is weird because you have this sect of Jedi who are experimenting and they're very strong in the Force and they're amazing. They're amazing. But all rights, they don't have to be to become a master. I mean, they could be as complacent as they possibly wanted to be.
Well, I mean, Elzar wasn't a master at the beginning of Light of the Jedi.
Yeah. And what he's done compared to Comac is...
Oh, God, it's heads and tails, man.
Comac doesn't use the Force in this book, really. He really doesn't. Truthfully.
Yeah.
And he's not that great of a combatant. I mean, we don't get many examples of it.
I mean, he's a book guy, He's a lore master, and that's cool. I don't know. I do I worry about the quality of Jedi. If faced with, granted the great disaster was taxing, but it wasn't the same as handling an army of Sith. Yeah. I feel like that if for example there was an army of Sith, I don't know that these Jedi would survive that. I don't know.
There's no way.
Some of them would, maybe. I don't know.
There would be those that would do well. Avar, Elzar, Jorah if she had survived. But there's
I
just
hate
not that
they
many.
killed that character. I really
And wasn't
hate
that a great
killed her.
reminder the entire book?
Yeah. Well, okay. Oh, listen. She's talking to him. She has been talking to Reith this entire book. She is a Force ghost.
Oh, yeah.
But
it's ironic.
starts to undermine
Qui-Gon.
existing lore.
Yeah.
Starts to undermine it. I'm just saying. I don't know if she's actually speaking to it, but the last push there did sort of seem like she was still there in some, not able to actually become a ghost, but clearly one with the Force, clearly has some sort of ability. Maybe.
And Qui-Gon was kind of the same. He was more ethereal than anything.
He
Obi-Wan,
was.
He wouldn't really manifest himself like Obi-Wan and Yoda did.
He was able to manifest, but only in places where there was a great Force presence. But yeah, you're right. He was kind of I will say he's the first person to push it to the level that he did, and he taught Obi-Wan and Yoda, and that was passed on to the rest, so that they could actually come back and be interfering pest ghosts and light trees on fire.
And then,
gosh, Yoda.
Qui-Gon watches Yoda like, no. Took it too far, man.
Too far, man.
I didn't intend for this.
We had rules. You're not supposed to strike them down with the lightning.
You're a ghost. Not these weird hippy-dippy ghosts that can touch things. No.
Or maybe he's like, just one chance. I could kill the Emperor.
Qui-Gon's like, you mean I could have smacked Anakin all these years?
you just see like Rey's advancing on Palpatine with the two lightsabers, and then you just see like Qui-Gon poke his hand out and snap his neck. All done. See you, Rey.
I am the chosen one.
Oh, by the way, Rey, yeah, I mean, Anakin and all them, they said it's cool. You can be a Skywalker. See ya. Who are you?
Oh, gee.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
Just, go kiss Ben. It's fine. Oh, that would have... I want to see like a little tune. I want to see that in tune version, like cartoon version, with just Qui-Gon coming up, like peeking his head out and just snapping his neck. If only I could animate. Oh, I could have.
This is for Maul. This is for Maul.
I could have interfered the entire time.
Sorry, everybody.
Okay. Anyway, let's get back to peace, love, and happiness at the end of this book. So Dez, what was the vow he took? Oh shoot!
I knew you were going to ask that.
Of course I was, because I can't remember what the name of it is.
The 10-year meditation vow. Yeah.
It had a specific name, though.
I know it did.
I'm trying to look up his...
It wouldn't take long to find it. Dez has a very small...
The Barash vow. He took the Barash vow. We know about that. You know, for him, I think that he came to grips where he understood that he was searching for adventure and not really adhering to the Jedi code. He wanted adventure, and that sort of led him to being broken.
Yeah. Easily manipulated.
Right. And the Barash vow is essentially like a penitence or like atonement.
Uh-huh.
So
we aren't seeing him again.
I don't know, man. I mean, maybe, but probably not, which makes him even less interesting to me.
Yeah. Did you think for a second that Reef was going to ask him to be his master?
Yes.
I was worried that was going to happen.
Well, I think I think there was definitely a thought, because you could tell Reef like looked up to him. Yeah. You know, he's like, "You were my master's Padawan before me, and you're cool, and you're all BA." So yeah, but I actually think that, again, plot device. He's a plot device, but he did help Reef understand where he actually needed to be. Because he saw this Jedi that he looked up.
He was a good dichotomy to his own imbalance. I mean, neither of them had the right path, truthfully.
Yeah, very true. And of course, he does choose Comac as his master, which
I was hoping for Orla, truthfully.
Well, a couple things. It's very interesting that the Jedi Council allowed him to choose his master.
Yeah. I thought so too.
Which I actually think just says that they trust him. Yeah. They know that he's going to be a good Jedi. We also know that you need to be able to pick your path now. We can't do it for you.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool in a way.
Yeah. I also thought it was kind of weird that they paused his training for so long.
Well, you know, it was a measure of understanding, I think. A weird bit of understanding when you think about it. They understood that maybe you're not ready yet. But but at
the same time, you have to push down that emotion. We're going to give you time to do that, but you need to push down that emotion. Don't think about the loss.
Yeah, but true. But again, it was all back to, we trust that you'll know when you're ready. So I thought that was actually pretty cool of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it would have been really cool for Orla, but Orla is on her own path. She has a new shiny ship. You know, Geode helped her. I mean, what is she out? Is she kissing rocks? I mean, they didn't know each other that well.
This is so wrong. I'm white as a ghost, and you're a rock.
I'm a ghost, and you're a rock. I'm possibly a night sister, and you're a geode. Yeah, I mean, again, obviously nothing romantic there, I don't think, but I did feel that it was kind of weird that she chose Geode to like go help pick out a ship, and it's like, hey, do you want to like come with me and navigate?
I would have
like,
been kind of angry. I would have been
You
kind
don't
of
even
angry,
know this
truthfully.
person.
Yeah.
You don't know him.
I would have been kind of angry if they split up the group and Geode left.
Yeah, I thought it was possible. I didn't actually think they were going to do that, but I would have had the same. It's like, that's stupid. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But even Orla understands that this is she has to walk this alone. She has to figure out where her path takes her. So she's off. Now, let's talk a little bit of Affy and Leox. So Affy drops the bomb. She doesn't just try and blackmail her mom. She just takes it straight to the Republic. They move fast. They arrest her. Leader of the Bind Guild. Bind Guild is disillusioned. You're all free. You all own your ships and everything that this person worked so hard for. Screw her. It's all yours. You got it. Yay. Which obviously, Leox, I mean, he wasn't indentured or anything. But he effectively makes the ship Affy's, but he's still
Affy
a part of
makes
the
it
crew.
And
Yeah, I mean, it's mine, but treat me the same way. But if you screw with me, I'll blow you out an airlock. So they're going off having adventures. And I want to talk about this a little bit too. Indentured servitude is very close to slavery. Mm-hmm. The only exception is generally speaking, you're not a slave, but you're working off a debt, right?
Mm-hmm. You get something out of it.
Yeah. And you have the potential for release when you pay off your debt. And listen, we don't know if the debts of these people were scrupulous or just happen. We've seen a lot of stories about debt in the Star Wars universe. It accumulates fast. Sometimes you're into things you can't get out of, yada, yada, yada. We get it.
Especially with like the Hutts.
Oh, yeah, definitely. For sure. So I don't necessarily... I don't like indentured servitude. However, Affy's parents were killed because they made a choice. Mm-hmm. Now, you can argue that was it desperation brought on by the guild leader or whatever, but they were given a choice. They made a run that was very dangerous using the rings, and they didn't have to do it, but they did it because they wanted to make the big bonus, try and get out from under the thumb, which I get, and they were killed. It's a weird moral question, It
is.
Obviously, those jobs have to be done at somehow because just because they're dangerous, they're still jobs. I mean, this is still a like a freight business. You know what I mean? They still have to do dangerous things. I don't know. I don't know what to think about it. Should let me just back up her name because I feel really bad because I've already forgotten her name. Scover. So do you I don't know if I necessarily see Scover as like truly evil.
I don't think that Scover was a villain. I think that Scover had questionable morals.
Yes. Yeah.
For sure. And that's actually part of her species. Truthfully, I'm not giving
And
excuses.
what are we talking about? A bivalve? Is she a clam? Is she clam people? I mean, that's.
Is there a picture of Scover? Mm-mm. I don't think there was.
Well, I don't actually think it's bivalve. Just kidding. It's okay. There are pictures. So it's just bivalve. But I kept thinking bivalve like a clam. But no, they are kind of a fish looking people though.
Yeah, and she's kind of identified that way throughout the book as well.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean it's kind of like a waterish planet. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But they definitely do have a little bit of a different outlook.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're logical beings. They don't have a lot of room for emotion.
Yeah. So here's the morality question. And again, guys, I mean I know it's a really difficult time for everybody. And we're not advocating for this person, but here's a morality question, which I think is interesting. It's a thought question. Would it have been better for Affy to have directly confronted Scover and worked logically to help her change? Because the thing is this could have been deep rooted in their society. She's obviously a little bit less feeling than most humanoids. So would it have been better to come to her and say, I know what happened to my parents. I know what's happening with the indentured servitude. I don't believe this is right. We need to put this right. Or do you believe that she is such a terrible person that she just has to be arrested, everything dissolved, the livelihood of all these guild members shaken up? Because the fact of the matter is that when you have an organization, things come easier. Jobs. Now these people are all independent contractors. They have to go find their own work, which means they're probably going to join another guild, or they're going to try and find work on their own, and that could be tough. I mean,
or they might end up becoming indentured servants as well.
True. Or bandits, marauders. They could turn bad. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing. But in the case of Affy, she rips the Band-Aid off and says, "Okay, this is wrong. No matter what, you're going to have to pay for it, and I'm not going to talk to you about it until one day." Which I actually feel it was pretty immature, to be honest with you. At least if you're going to do that, look that person in the eye and say you're going to do it. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, listen, I know, and this is wrong, and I've went to the Republic, and you're going to have to answer for it. You know, I don't know. I don't know what you do in that situation. I think a lot of people probably wouldn't have went to the Republic. Hell, I think a lot of people would have just shut up, let it continue to happen, and say, because the thing is Scover also comes back with, you know, in a couple decades, this is all yours. This is all coming to you, and you can do with it whatever you want. I can't do this forever.
And Abby even says that. It's like, well, do I deal with this now, or do I just actually take control of this guild and make it better for all these people eventually? And she's taken that option away from herself. She's not going to inherit anything now. She can't help anybody. She's made herself kind of a useless character in a way, truthfully.
Well, I think she also has made herself a target, because I think that there are going to be people that are very angry at her decision and could possibly target her.
Yeah.
You know, so, okay, I you know, we're not here to answer moral questions. You know, it's just a thought exercise. I find it interesting. I don't even know what I would have done in that situation. I didn't really even think about it all that much. But I do think that there would be a lot to think about, especially if you're considering this person your mother.
Adoptive mother, yeah.
You know, because she even says she barely remembers her parents. She was very young when they died. And and Scover had been with her the entire time. She had been, you know, an actual mother to her. So I don't know, man. That's tough. That's a very tough thing. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer to it. Maybe there's a right answer. Maybe there's a wrong. I don't really know.
The main thing is they pumped it up to like she made the right answer, and I don't think, like you said, there isn't one. I feel like it would have been better if they made it kind of gray and acknowledge that she's going to run into issues because of this, and it didn't help everybody. It helped certain people, but also hurt certain people.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I don't have an answer for it. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to, you know, kind of talk about it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, indentured servitude is BS. no matter how you slice it. It just is what it is. So, anyway, that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Pretty much
We're
from there
wrapping
we
it
go
up.
to, yeah, from that point we go to Reef choosing his master, so
Yeah.
we're pretty much at the end of the book now. And we don't have a all lightsabers raised for Starlight in the end of this book, which is kind of nice. A little less repetition.
Yeah, I agree. But anyway. Well, I think that's about it. You got anything else you want to discuss today?
No, I think we just kind of have to get to reviews now.
Yeah, let's give it a ranking. What's your ranking, man? Out of 10 or out of 5? Books are out of 5, movies are out of 10.
Oh, you're making it harder.
This is how it works.
I'm going to give this book a 3.9.
Okay.
I would have given it a 7 out of 10. I just feel like this isn't a... It's an okay... It's more than an okay book. It is a good book. It really is. But there's just a little bit too much going on, too many characters, and it kind of diluted it to where we didn't get to really learn a lot about anybody. I mean, truthfully, we didn't really learn much about Reef, even, being the main character. It is a cool book, but setting up these plant people as a potential big baddie didn't really interest me all that much. It kind of fell flat. There was quite a bit of build-up with these dark side statues, and it just fell flat at the end for me. And I don't know. It's getting harder to see where this series is going, truthfully. So, but I did enjoy the book. It was a good book, and Reef is an interesting character, and I like to see more of him. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. What would I say? I think that it's a pretty solidly written book. I think we're trying to cram too many characters in. And yeah, the Dren gear I'm not crazy excited about because it's like
Plants.
Okay. Yeah. But we are diving into a lot of the vulnerabilities of the Jedi, which can both be annoying and interesting at the same time. So that's good. I would probably give it a solid 4 out of 5.
Okay.
I think that's where I'm at. Solid 4. It's a good book. But yeah, I mean, little nitpicky things, which I think happen every time with about every book. But it's a good book.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, all right, folks. That's the rankings. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. Let us know what you thought about our book or our comic or anything else. Any theories, suggestions, comments. Keep it holy, y'all. And if you want to interact with the podcast, you can, of course, find us on Facebook or look us up on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at TC Plan Podcast. Or you can just send us a good old-fashioned email to tcplanpodcast@gmail.com, and we'd be more than happy to discuss any theories on future episodes. But I think that's it for today, so you guys have a great rest of your week.
As always, may the Force be with you.